Okay, so LA Times, they made an oopsie, and that was supporting Karen Bass. He's saying it was a mistake for his paper to endorse Karen Bass, and says competent people should be elected, not professional politicians. So here we are. Karen Bass is now being thrown under the bus by the LA Times that endorsed her, because the LA Times made an oopsie. And now everyone's realizing that they're stuck holding the bag. So it's one thing to look at this, it's another thing altogether to see how the media is struggling to control their narrative now.
First of all, we'll accept some blame, right? So at the LA Times, we endorse Karen Bass. I think right now in front, that's a mistake, and we admit that. So I thought it was very important early on for me to come out. And I think we were one of the few to say competence matters. We got like maybe 20, 23 million views to show how that was really dear to the heart of most people, whether you're right or left. And it's an interesting thing is that maybe we should think about how we elect people on the basis of, did they actually run a job? Did they actually make a payroll? Do they understand what it is? And rather than having professional politicians whose only job is really to run for office. There's nothing, I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I think we're at the stage now of the nation and the world, and there's many things we'll talk about even in healthcare, that you really need people to understand how it affects a man in the street, how it affects the working type of person. And I think President Trump in this election has understood that, and he's become truly a Republican Party, as you said.
Do you hear that? That's somebody who's trying to say, yeah, sorry about my newspaper, picking this person. I didn't mean to pick Karen. We didn't mean to endorse her after her abysmal failure of being utterly silent and then also trying to do damage control to protect her name. Let's rewind that just a little bit here, folks. Let's rewind that just a tiny bit here.
There's nothing, I'm not trying to be disparaging, but I think we're at the stage now of the nation and the world, and there's many things we'll talk about even in healthcare, that you really need people to understand how it affects a man in the street, how it affects the working type of person. And I think President Trump in this election has understood that, and he's become truly a Republican Party, as you said. He's become the Democratic Party in terms of addressing the problems of the man in the street. So competence absolutely matters, and I'm glad that that's been taken up as almost a meme now, that competence matters.
It's a meme now that competence matters. It's a meme now. It's a meme now. Competence matters. I just want to pull up something here. Because when you have the owner, or at least the boss man, just to be clear here, just want to pull this up here. LA Times owner, Dr. Patrick Soon, says it was a mistake for his paper to endorse Karen Bass. That tells me, and should tell all of you, that this mistake and why it matters is evidence of the ongoing continuous failure of our politicians and, of course, of our media. So she was on a diplomatic trip to Ghana when the wildfires broke out. And now she was given that warning that the conditions were perfect for an epic disaster, the likes of which LA County has never seen before. And while she returned, she was utterly silent. Now, many citizen residents have signed an open petition calling for her to resign and step down. Petition demanding that Karen Bass resign over this. And it's got over more than 27,000 signatures right now. 27,000 signatures. I'm surprised that the number isn't even higher. But that's what's going on. And so in an interview on the morning meeting on Monday, the owner of the LA Times was asked by one of the three hosts of the show, how Los Angeles have been criticizing Bass and California Governor Gavin Newsom. And he goes on to say, we endorsed Karen Bass. I think it was a mistake. That is a mistake. We admit it. You're admitting that was a mistake. Did you guys do your due diligence? Did you guys do your proper observations? Did you look over her qualifications on whether or not she was there? At least in the mindset. And, she goes on to quote, this is something that is interesting, that Karen Bass told reporters on Wednesday, that she remained in contact with the fire commanders and officials while abroad, and had taken the fastest route back from Ghana. Although I wasn't physically there, and this is her quote, I was in touch with many of the individuals standing here throughout the entire time. Not only have Los Angeles residents slammed Karen Bass for not being in the city when the wildfire started, they also stated she has decreased the funding for the Los Angeles Fire Department that year. So people are demanding it. People are demanding for her to resign. And yet the newspapers, the institutions that go to bat for these politicians, they want you to stop asking questions. So whenever you see a news outlet or anything going to bat real hard for a politician, just remember that they own some responsibility too. Because in this day and age where the media has influence, especially on big tech, their words do matter. And when you start going to bat for politicians and start endorsing them, you need to realize that in this era right now, politicians are viewed like the bubonic plague. People don't trust them. You have Gavin Newsom saying that he was on the phone waiting for Biden to call back to him. You have all these politicians doing some kind of song and act and dance. How many times have we done stories now about the fact that we have politicians serving in Congress who are in their 80s and mentally they're not there? You have examples of politicians whose bodies are failing them. And yet, remember, MSNBC, CNN, and other media outlets said that these politicians are just fine. They love to have access to them. They have them on their Sunday programming. But it's all a lie. And as a great philosopher once said, as we should,
all lies will be exposed.
As they should all the time, every time.
It is the best $3 billion investment we make. Whether or not in Israel, the United States of America would have to invent an Israel to protect her interest in the region. The United States would have to go out and invent an Israel.
I don't mean to sound alarmist, but most of what they let you read is garbage. Most of it's designed to warp our minds until subconsciously you find you'll take the time to lick their boots free of grime and wipe their minds free of tarnish. Oil is the centerpiece, a body count of millions is the garnish. So how's it feel to know we funded every carcass? That every year our taxes pay for carpet bombing Gaza under shroud of darkness? Or that we spend enough a year to house and feed each homeless person in the streets on turning families in apartment buildings in the Middle East to bloody craters full of charred garments? And our media is silent at best. At worst, they can find it in themselves to call war crimes clashes and label children burned to ashes terrorists who played a stupid game and reaped the harvest. And every time we try to paint the truth, the news sends their slugs to suck off all the varnish and distort it into something harmless. See, the media will hang you by your feet and keep you half asleep. So yes, I'm here to set you free, but freedom won't be sweet because you'll fall 1,000 feet when I come cut you out your harness. They say those who dream the deepest fall the farthest. They also say that home is where the heart is. But if home for you is Gaza, Netanyahu's got you painted as a target. Perhaps it's not the impact, but it's what you see when falling that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the sound of all those children crying out in those apartments that will hit the hardest. Maybe all those little bodies scattered in the dirt will hit the hardest. Maybe seeing human lives assigned such little worth will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that you're paying for the darkest of atrocities committed on this earth that will hit the hardest. Maybe it's the knowledge that we give 10 million a day to oppressors who possess the kind of Medicare you'll die in debt before you see that's gonna hit the hardest. Maybe then you'll see you've always had more in common with the commoners whose slaughter we fund every day in Gaza than our senators and bosses. Maybe then you'll see our country never had a conscience. Maybe then the retroactive guilt will make you nauseous. Maybe what hits harder than the impact is the act of being conscious, of knowing your complicity and helplessness to try and stop the bloody deeds of Congress. And that no matter who's in office, America preserves its foreign interests by whatever means its greed demands, however monstrous. You see, we'll always need a place to drain our contras. And Biden's got a backup plan, should harm befall the Holy Land. Wipe it off the map, he'll draw it back on with an iron hand. He demands an Israel or reasonable effigy to exercise democracy and colonize the Middle East. Regardless of the human cost of phosphorus atrocities, bought and paid with money they rerouted out the budget for the non-essential things like ever making Flint's water clean. So maybe what hits hardest is the day you see this country for its actual priorities, and nevermore no honest peace attempting sleep. Maybe then you'll look at politicians making speeches like a blood-encrusted beast espousing destiny to empty seats and fellow leeches. As the gauntlet of democracy extends its brutal reach, like a giant wave of trash come to crash on foreign beaches. Maybe build a base, throw a flag down and heavily pollute the region. Rape your ecosystems, gut your fauna and congratulate you on your new allegiance. Oops, we mean alliance. This is something mutual unless you're non-compliant. We stole something crucial on which you can be reliant. So maybe what hits hardest is the centrist saying both sides need to stop the violence. And those would be the very same centrists saying we should all accept police brutality, who hem and haw and clutch their fucking pearls and spend their time condemning riots. But very soon will come the day the centrists all get censored like the rest of us, and pious as they'll try to be, they won't stay quiet. But they'll just end up shouting in the void that they were also quick to render us subscribers. And it will be too late to light the fires. So far away tonight, they burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Which is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. And call it foreign interests or American desires. This is why your checks weren't all $600 higher. Far away tonight, they burn the spires of a region set ablaze for which you've paid for every pyre. Call it foreign interests or American desires.